There's a couple extras if anybody needs one. So we're looking at our quadrants and we're looking at our 15-day plan. Measure needs to be mastered by day 4, okay? So that's the next step. So now we're working towards our goal of pitch tomorrow, right? The script. We're working towards our goal of measure on day 4, which is Thursday. And then we're working towards our products, knowing our doors by day 5, okay? All right? Are you good, Natalie? All right. So let's talk about how to measure. What you have in front of you is a measure sheet. Like I said before, this we typically do with an iPad and do a digital version of this. And one of the things I'll say before we get too carried away with measuring, so you understand our process as a business, if you sell it today, we measure it tomorrow. So what does that mean? Well, as part of our sales process, your job is to design and to measure and to price properly this project, and then be able to close and negotiate all that type of stuff. But what we provide is a measure tech the next day to go and actually blueprint the kitchen, which is an inch-by-inch measurement of everything. What we're really focused on as we get into pricing in the next day or so, what we really get focused on is linear feet when it comes to the sales aspect of this. Making sure that we have the linear feet correct and that we understand our aisles, which you'll see on your price sheet, so that we're picking and choosing the different things that are customized to that individual customers. But we're not measuring as a salesperson, we're not measuring all the ins and outs of all of the cabinets, okay? We're really focused on linear feet, and so that's what you'll see from a process standpoint. And the reason, the intent behind that is because we don't want to take a ton of time building all this great storyline, building this emotion, building this connection with what we've created from a solution standpoint for the customer's problem. We don't want to take an hour to measure to come up with a price that we might have to adjust, right? Also, it takes a lot more skill to put together a good measure as a measure tech, making sure that all the different ins and outs are taken care of. So a measure tech they spend about an hour to hour and a half with the customer the next day, and they do an inch-by-inch measurement of all the walls and base cabinets, all the rough openings, all the stiles and rails, all the things that you saw in that nomenclature yesterday. They go through and fill out a bunch of information so that we can order, God bless you, so we can order the kitchen properly. So your focus, the intent of you measuring, is speed and efficiency, but also being effective, right? We don't like errors, we don't like mistakes, because that costs everybody money. So we want to make sure that we do it the right way, we go through it process-oriented, but that we're doing it as quickly as possible so that we can return back to the table and be able to give that customer a great price and be able to go ahead and work to finalize the deal, okay? So let's talk about how to measure, and these are really the steps that you're going to need to know. And if you don't know these steps, then you're probably going to do what? You're probably going to make mistakes. You're probably going to miss things. And so that's why it's important to go through it and do it the same way every single time so that you don't have the ability to make mistakes. So what you see on your measure sheet is a bunch of boxes. Those boxes are on the wall cabinets and they're on the base cabinets. And it gives you plenty of room to be able to fill in what is going on in that kitchen. What we're talking through today is kind of the baseline version of measuring. We're going to continue to kind of build on this in the next couple days, but these are really the steps to approach measuring first and foremost. What you'll find is, I believe you have 11 boxes on your measure sheet. Can somebody verify that for me? Yeah. Okay, so you have 11 boxes. So what you have to do is you have to know what tool you have, which is your measure sheet, and then you have to know the steps in order to take what you need and convert it to that. So I'm gonna read through them just real quickly, and then I'll talk through them afterwards. Okay. So one, we're going to determine left. Then we're going to count the wall doors. We're going to count the base doors. We're going to add up altered and new cabinets. Then we're going to number the wall doors. We're going to number the base cabinet doors. Then we're going to measure the wall doors. We're going to measure the base cabinets, and then we're going to add up the wall doors and divide by 12. We're going to add up the base cabinets and divide by 12, and then add those two numbers together. Okay, so now you can pay attention to me because I read through everything for you, okay? All right, so let's talk about number one. When you determine left, there is no right or wrong answer to this, okay? It really is based along when you walk into the kitchen, what is the natural left? So when the customer introduces you and says, hey, come on into the kitchen, some of the kitchens you're going to see are U-shaped, some of them are L-shaped, some of them are galleys. There's a variety of different. And I would tell you, if you want to learn more about kitchens, YouTube styles of kitchens. You should probably do that, right? Because then you can get a big education on the different types of kitchens. I don't particularly care about all that because that's up to you to learn and become knowledgeable about. What I care about is when you enter one of those kitchens, how do you go about making sure that you're going to take your information and communicate it to the next person, right? Being a good teammate. That's what's important to me, that handoff in step number 10. And so in order to have a good handoff, you have to start by being able to measure properly for that customer so that you get a good solid price to be able to write the deal. So when you walk in, whatever's natural, the left, just determine what that is, okay? And so that's where you want to start, and then you want to start with all your measurements throughout the entire duration of measuring. You want to start with left and always work left to right. So do not, whatever you do, write this down. Do not bounce around. Bouncing around equals losing money. And my goal for you is to have success. I do not want you to not have success. Bouncing around equals losing money. So please be systematic with your measuring. Always pick left. Always start left, work right. The next thing you're going to do is count up the wall doors. So in the kitchen, you're going to count up the wall doors. Now, why is that important? The reason that's important is because you have 11 spaces on your piece of paper. In order to be effective at pricing, you need to make sure that you don't have a hot mess of material and data all over your piece of paper, right? So you only have 11 slots, which means that if there's 22 doors, you've got to take and figure out how to put 22 cabinet doors into 11 blocks. Because you need to fill out all your wall doors on your piece of paper or on your screen, right? Whatever you're using for your measure sheet. So you count up the wall doors, and you then go ahead and say, okay, well, I have 14 doors for my walls. I have 11 spaces. Now I know how I need to kind of divide these things up so everything fits onto my piece of paper, and I can make notes, and I can do the things that I need to do, okay? Then you're going to count up the base doors for the exact same reason. You have 11 spaces there. You may or may not have enough. One thing that we do not ever do is that wall doors or wall cabinets are never put on base cabinets, and base cabinets are never put on walls. So just because you have, I have 11 spaces on the walls, and I have 11, and I only have, I can use some of these, do not, right? If it's a wall cabinet, it goes on the upper side of your measure sheet. If it's a base cabinet, it goes on the lower side. So you count them up. Then the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to walk through and you're going to add the altered and new cabinets. So what we start doing is we start labeling our wall cabinets. And the way to do that is if you're designing any type of alterations, maybe the customer has a microwave, maybe they have a hood currently over their stove and they'd like to have a microwave. Well, we can alter that. So you need to label where those alterations are going to occur on your sheet. So that way you can let the measure tech know, and you can remind yourself later on when it comes to your paperwork, oh yeah, we're doing that alteration. Or maybe I'm adding a base cabinet. Maybe the customer wants an island. Okay, well I need to make sure that I've counted that up. I can count that there's 10 cabinets here, but oh gosh, I gotta add 3 cabinets for this island. So I gotta label that on my piece of paper too, right? So that's why we want to take and add the altered or new, that's not of, we'll have to edit that. Add up altered or new cabinets is the next step, okay? Next, we are going to number the wall doors. And so what we're going to start doing is the way that we number is wherever the hinge is, that's going to be the number of that door. So when you look at a cabinet, you open the door up, wherever that hinge is, that's going to be number 1. Then you're going to go over to number 2, number 3, number 4, so on and so forth, okay? Then you're going to measure the wall doors, or wall cabinets is what that should be. You're going to measure the wall cabinets. So what you're going to do is go left to right. After you've numbered all the doors, you're then going to go and start going left to right, and you're going to measure each box, one after the other. Okay? And then above that, when you're looking at your measure sheet, you're going to write that number up above here. Okay? So that's where you're going to write that. Yeah. Well, I'll need to give them a whole copy of right here. So we'll have to give you a template, a sample template. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to measure, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to number the base doors. Oh, we already did that, sorry. After we measure the base doors, then what we're going to do is we're going to measure the base doors. Let me back up, sorry. You're going to number the wall doors, you're going to number the base doors, then you're going to go back and you're going to measure the wall cabinets. Then after you're done with the wall cabinets, you're then going to go measure the base cabinets. The important thing to understand about the measurements when it comes to selling, the Measure Tech takes exact measurements. You take approximate dimensions when it comes to overall. What I mean by that is this. If it's 11.5 inches for this cabinet, you're going to round up to 12 inches. Okay? If it's 9.25, you're going to round up to 10. Okay? So that inch is, everything's going to be rounded up for your wall doors and your base doors. Not your wall cabinets and your base cabinets. So that gets you to the next two steps, which is then you're going to add up the wall doors. So you're going to take and add all those inches up. You're going to divide by 12 because you're dividing by linear feet. Okay, so it would be 100 and something inches. You divide by 12, that gives you X amount of linear feet. And then you do that for your base cabinets as well. Again, the objective and goal there is to get your total linear feet for your wall cabinets and your total linear feet for your base cabinets. And then you'll be adding those two numbers together and you'll use that information into your into your price sheet when you're calculating your linear foot price. All right? So that is the initial part of how to measure. We will go through, because I don't have it at this moment, we'll go through with a measure sheet and show you, well, I guess I could do it with you real quick. Let's just do that. It's going to make it just a little difficult for those that are watching along, but, okay. I'm just saying it's going to make it difficult for them to see what I'm trying to do here. No, I'll just showcase it. I got it, thanks. Oh, man. Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. All right, so let's talk first of all. Let me grab one of these things. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to count up our doors, right? So after you've counted them up and you determine that we only need, we're going to make this really simple for the first one. We only need 6 cabinets, right? 6 walls, and we're going to need 4 bases. It's a real small kitchen. So what we're going to do first and foremost is we're going to count those up and go, okay, well, I've got enough spaces to put a cabinet in each one of these spots. Okay, 1 door, 1 spot. Very simple. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to number my door because I'm not doing any alterations for this. So I'm then going to go and say, well, based on the kitchen, you're going to put a number where that hinge side is at. Does that make sense? That's saying that number 1 there is saying that door hinge side is right there on that cabinet. Okay? And so I'm going to go through and say the next door is here, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if you're following along, I would just number it like that. Okay? And again, I'll have a picture of a kitchen tomorrow. We'll do this again together. This is just to kind of give you an initial baseline. So So that's numbering the wall cabinets. Now, as you've done that, we don't have a picture, so it doesn't give us a great example. But what you would also do is you would mark any 90 degrees or 45 degrees, any interchanges in that kitchen. But for what we're doing today, this is fine. Then we would go to our bases, and we're going to do the same thing. Now the difference is that you'll actually continue counting. So if you stopped at 6 here, number 7 would start with the door down at the bases. We don't start 1 through 4 down here, okay? So 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? Always working left to right, so it would look like that. Okay. All right, so that's numbering our doors. Then what we're going to do is we're going to measure our cabinets, and we're just going to assume any numbers at this point. So we're going to start with our walls. So that's how you would measure your walls, and that's how it would look. Okay? And then you're going to do the same thing on your bases. Now what you'll notice is if you saw that 30-inch, the reason that 30 inch is in the middle of those two is because that would signify that that's one cabinet with 2 doors. Does that make sense? So on the bases, we're going to do 36 and 36. Make it real easy. Whoops. Like that. All right. And then the last step that we're going to do is we're going to add them together. So 12 plus 12 is 24, plus 10 is 34, plus 14 is 48, plus 30 is 78. So that'd be 78 linear inches, and 36 plus 36 is 72. And then you're going to divide that by 12. So 76 divided by 12 is 6 foot and some change. So we'll call it 7 foot, 7 linear feet. And then 72 is 7 foot, or 6 foot, 6 linear feet. So it'll be like that. And then you just add those two together, which would give you a total of how many? 13 linear feet for this kitchen. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. So we will continue to work on this. This is, again, just the beginning introduction to measuring. What we'll do as the week continues is we'll have some pictures of some kitchens, and we'll talk through and work through them together with the various types of alterations. But this is the basic version of how we measure a kitchen, okay? So if you have any questions about it, please feel free. The only thing I didn't show you is if we altered a kitchen. I guess I should have done that. I apologize. And so if we were going to alter a kitchen, we would just draw in something like this. If we're altering that to make a microwave, it would look something like that. And so what that's going to communicate to the measure tech is when the measure tech walks into that kitchen, they see a hood, they're going to go, oh, I see, right? The paperwork says that we're altering this for a microwave. I see on the picture, I see on the measure sheet that we're altering it. Now I know, okay, that I need to measure that we're going to be cutting this bottom rail out, and we need to move that up, or we need to order a new cabinet, you know, all that type of stuff. So again, we'll teach you a lot of these things as time as the next 2 weeks go on. But that's kind of the initial baseline of how do you measure, making sure that you're going through these steps. We're going to add some steps to it as we go as well. But these are kind of the basic steps of how do we go about. You start with left. Again, I don't particularly care how you determine which left is, as long as you know that this is your left hand, right? I think we're going back to our funnel, right? I think we're all talented and knowledgeable to know what a left is. So when you walk into the kitchen, making sure that you know what left is, and that you take the time, just like everything else, if you haven't noticed yet, we're big on what? We're big on preparation. We're big on planning, right? I don't want you just walking in there and going, all right, let me just grab as many dimensions as I can real quick and get a number out. No, we want you to be systematic because why? What's the commitment? What's the intent behind it? Well, because we don't want you not to be successful. We want you to, we don't want to have the conversation as a district management team going, hey, you know what? Great job, you sold that deal, but you're not making any money because you didn't follow the process. You're going to be pissed off about that, and we're going to be pissed off about it, right? We want you to make money. But if you don't go through and follow in the necessary preparation steps to have success, then you shouldn't be surprised when you don't have success. And so that's kind of why we're doing these things, is go, look, don't just bounce around and grab whatever dimensions and do it your own way. Start with left, count up how many cabinets you've got, understand what you have on your price sheet, so that way you can fit the whole thing in the wall, on the wall section, you can fit the whole thing on the base section, and then go through and start actually counting, numbering your doors, and then measuring left to right your wall cabinets, then left to right your base cabinets. Then add it up, divide by 12 so that you get your linear feet, and then add it together. And then that information will start being input into your price sheet. If you're not a very tidy person when it comes to your handwriting, I would suggest that you work on that. Okay? Because scratching stuff down is going to make it more difficult and more likely that you make mistakes. So take the time, be efficient and effective for sure, but take the time so that you can actually read what you're scratching down. So that is your reference guide. When you take that measure sheet and you go into your pricing guide, you're using that. You don't want to go back and keep measuring things. You want to have everything that you need in your measure sheet so that you can then quickly go and say, here's my price, I need this, 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 and this. Boom, done. Great, grand, wonderful. All right, very good. Any questions? If they are, put them in the feed. All right, so again, we've now, if we're looking at our 15 days, I keep reminding you this because why? Because it's important that we continue to stay in the funnel, right? We have to set our goals and we have to have accomplishment. So now we've gone through, we understand gusto. We should understand nomenclature by the end of today. We should understand how to manage. We should understand because they equal relationship and trust. Relationship and trust with who? First of all, with yourself. Then with tomorrow, we need to know from the pitch quadrant. We need to know that the script has to be memorized by the end of tomorrow night. And then day 4, we need to know how to measure. So this is the basis of starting to learn how to measure. So that we can, and the reason we need to know that by day 4 is because guess what? That is connected to day 7 of knowing how to price. And so the last piece is we need to know our products by day 5. So we've knocked out a bunch of things already that are pushing us closer to our goals and having a sense of accomplishment with our objectives. So what we're going to move into next is we're going to go through the Prezi walkthrough. So Prezi is what we're using currently. The cool thing is we actually have a new piece of software that we'll be rolling out hopefully first of the year called Leap, but for now we're using Prezi. And this is what we're going to try to do now for, is this the last thing I have? Sorry, do I have 2 things still today or 1? Okay. Hopefully you're taking better notes today than you did yesterday, for those of you that didn't take great notes. And again, hopefully you're having some fun. I don't know. I'm going through the intent of it, right? Yeah. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you, because the next part that we're moving into is the presentation quadrant, right? So we talked pitch earlier today. Now we're going to talk presentation so that you understand. We did this a little bit yesterday with the step 3, right? No? Oh, you were shaking your head. You're not talking to me?
Meaning that step 3 fits into the overall presentation.
Correct. And the intent behind each slide, right? So when we talk about intent, understand the why we're showing this to a customer. All right, so we're going to do that for the first 3 steps in total today. So that way, again, we get a little bit of better understanding why we're showing or why we're communicating through the visual, not really the audible, but the visual aspect of our presentation to the customer. So, slide number 1. So when you start your presentation, when you enter the home, what you're going to be working towards is getting to that dining room table, and you're going to then pull up this presentation, okay? And so what we've got is, first and foremost, actually let me backtrack just a second. I'm going to wait till Stephen comes back. I don't get too carried away.
You basically finished with the concept of